the regular meeting of the Neshoba Regional School Committee tonight, May 22nd at 6:02 p.m. If you would, everyone, you can mute, but join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good call on the flag, Shandor.
You need to designate that as a job. I do see that Karen is trying to get in, so hopefully she'll be able to join us shortly. So looking at our agenda here, we have citizens' comments first, and I have not received any interest from the public in formally engaging in citizens' comment. So we're going to move on to our next item here. And just a little bit in advance of 6:07, but that's okay. We're scheduled to have an executive session, two separate purposes, although they're similar. And I'm going to lean on Amy Cohen to give us, well, hold on one second. Kirk, we're going to need to say both of the pursuant statements. Is that right?
That is correct. You will need to say both.
Okay. Okay, Amy, go for it.
All right, I move to enter into executive session at 6:04 p.m. pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel for Unit A grievances. Executive session A, to include the school committee, Superintendent Kirk Downing, Anne Marie Stoika, Kevin Keaveney, Mike Tollefson, and Maura Lapointe. Executive session B, to include the school committee, Superintendent Kirk Downing, Anne Marie Stoika, Kevin Keaveney, Mike Tollefson, and Brittany Jones. The committee will reconvene to open session.
We'll second that. And any discussion? All right, we're going to take a roll call vote. I will start. I say yes. Joe?
Yes. Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Thanks, Dana. Scott?
Yes.
Shandor?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I think I got everybody. Screen jumped. All right, everybody, we are
Okay, so do I need to read this all again and list the other
Yes.
participants,
Yes,
or can I
please.
just modify it? Okay.
Yeah.
I move to enter into an executive session at 6:11 p.m. pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel for Unit A grievances. Executive A session to include the school committee, Superintendent Kirk Downing, Anne Marie Stoika, Kevin Keaveney, Mike Tollefson, and Kristen Marino. Executive session B to include school committees, Superintendent Downing, Anne Marie Stoika, Kevin Keaveney, Mike Tollefson, and Brittany Jones. The committee will reconvene to open session.
I will second that. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Joe, do we need discussion? Sorry.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to ask is, who's Maura Lapointe? Is she not going into this session?
She is not currently present, it doesn't look like, but she perhaps will join us.
She was listed on the motion.
But
I
Amy
did not
Amy
list
didn't read
her,
the
so
motion
let
that way.
me include Maura. Executive session A also to include Maura Lapointe. I'm so
Okay,
sorry
I
for
am
making this even more complicated.
That's okay. So I seconded the motion and I am happy to accept that friendly amendment
Thank you.
to include Maura Lapointe. Okay, and so if there's no further discussion, I'm going to take the vote. Myself, I say yes. Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
Okay, so we are now in executive. I will apologize to the community if they were keeping track of our timeline. We are a little bit behind here with the executive session lasting a little bit longer than normal. So we do have our regular agenda to attend to. We're just a tad behind. So picking back up, we are going to move on to the consent agenda. And I wonder if Amy Cohen could give me a motion on the consent agenda. Oh, you're muted. Yep. Thanks, Amy.
Yep, sorry about that. I move to approve the consent agenda of May 22nd, 2024, containing draft meeting minutes of May 8th, 2024, and warrants of May 24th, 2024.
I'll second that. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Joe?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Jackie?
Yes.
Shondor? Was that a yes, Shondor?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Mike?
Yes.
Scott? Did I lose Scott? Oh, yeah, I did. Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Sharon? Sharon, can you hear me? Consent agenda, would you like to vote on the motion?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Did I get everyone? It's jumping around. Okay, everybody. So the motion passes. We're going to move on to the next item here, and there's the school committee chairperson update. So I just have a brief update. It is actually related to one of our subcommittee reports, but I will share it now. The school committee is looking to, at our next meeting, identify the membership of our advisory committee called Dear Jay. And in the superintendent's comment, which is his weekly newsletter, it was explained how we would appreciate any residents who are interested in joining this advisory, which serves the school committee, and making sure that all of our actions are adhering to our statement on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and with the strategic plan. And so if you are interested in being a member of Dear Jay for the next school year and helping to forward the mission of that group and of our committee, please email me at lviverito@nrsd.net to send me a letter of intent, which does not necessarily need to be extensive. You should just tell me that you are interested and why and how your background might be a good addition to the group. At this point in time, I will let the community know that based upon the comment from last Friday, I do have 7 interested people who are willing to serve on the committee, which is a great number. So if you feel like you are a little too busy for this, but you hope the mission carries on, fear not, there are 7 fantastic residents who are going to carry it on. So that being said, let's move on to the next item on our agenda is a student representative report. But Kirk, I'm not seeing our student reps.
Yes, not surprising.
Busy, busy, busy. So that's okay. We will keep going here and move on to our superintendent's report. He has a couple of announcements and some updates on strategic work.
And our team knows, Madam Chair, given the timeliness of the evening, we will give you some truncated reports without losing any of the meat. We want to make sure you have the good stuff. Last week, we sent out an announcement to Neshoba Regional High School families and the families of our middle schools, specifically 8th grade families, regarding manganese that's been detected in the water source for Neshoba Regional High School. That sample was taken in January and March of this year. We received notification from Whitewater Water and Wastewater Solutions on May 7th with instructions on notifying our community within 30 days of the testing. It's important to note that manganese itself is naturally in water. These are elevated levels for which we have never tested higher than the threshold in the past. So this is a new phenomenon for us. And part of that requirement from Mass DEP is that we put together an action plan, of which Mr. Frieswick will be working on that, as well as notifying our community. So we also put out the literature about manganese in the water, that drinking the water itself is not dangerous, say in a single or minimum usage, but repeatedly over a period of time could have some negative effects. So this is something we want to monitor. I want you to know that I've already put out a request to test the bubbler water, because all of our bubblers do have filters and carbon filters on them. So we want to now test directly from the tap source. That's part of our plan, so we get that data back. And so with that, just want to let the committee know that we're following all the regulations of Mass DEP and their notifications to us. While that testing was done on March 26th, we received instructions at that time to pause as they prepare notifications for us to notify the community. So that's what we did. We received their information on May 7th and were able to get it out to our community within the week. So with that, Madam Chair, before we go to the next piece, I just want to take any questions from the committee. I did ask Mr. Frieswick to be here, as well as Ms. Wicker, in case there are any questions from the committee.
Okay, so this is specific to the high school. Yep, so let's go over to Amy Cohen.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could explain the timeline a little bit more, because it looks like the samples were taken in January.
Yeah.
But notification wasn't really provided for a few months after that. Do you know why that was?
They do multiple samples. It was taken in January and then again in March. We were notified at the end of March. In that notification, they said, we will be preparing notification for you for your community. Please wait. And so we followed their instructions. They sent that to us on May 7th. And so after that, because when it comes to water quality, we have to follow Mass DEP's instructions quite strictly. So now that we have that, we move forward with the plan.
So could we assume that since the DEP didn't get back to us until May, that there wasn't an urgent need to react, right?
That's exactly it. There was no danger or sense of urgency where we needed to do that.
Okay.
But you're saying that carbon filtration is very likely capable of managing this?
No,
Maybe that's
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we have carbon filtered bubblers. We're just having the bubblers tested to see if it's addressing that. Mr. Frieswick, I'll turn that question over to you.
Thanks, Superintendent. Carbon media isn't really effective for reducing the amount of manganese in the water. It could do it a little bit. That's why we're going to do some field tests to see if the bottle filling stations at the high school, because those have carbon filters in them, see if it reduces the amount of manganese in them, get a baseline, and then we can, take further action at that point.
So I'm assuming that this kind of testing could take, Rob, a couple of weeks to get that baseline and then to kind of test for safety?
Field tests, when Whitewater gets on site, the field test, we'll be able to get results immediately once they get the field test done. So we'll know on those bottle filling stations whether that carbon is filtering out the manganese. We do right now, we're going to increase the raw water sample, which that's the sample taken directly from the well. We're going to increase that to monthly so we can get a baseline. Up to this point, up till January, we've never had a detect of manganese in the water system. So it's kind of an anomaly. So we want to get some baseline numbers and more frequent testing to see where things are going, if they're trending up or if they're trending down, so we can put a proper action plan in place going forward.
So we're grateful to you on this front, and we thank DEP obviously for conducting this testing. I think that what parents are worried about is, I know that you had a plan for how the kitchen was handling it with, fruits and vegetables are to be used, we need to use bottled water to wash them, etc. And so I understand that the kitchen is managing it. There was a concern brought to us that said that, with the hot temperatures in this building is just, how I feel about it. It's hot and the kids, not all of them bring water bottles or they run out and then they can't refill. So what's the plan for making sure that hydration is not a problem? I know the sports teams are bringing, yesterday I saw them bring a huge bucket of water out, so I'm not sure where they got that water. Like what's the plan there?
Yeah, as we have that advisement, we'll work with Dr. Borton and the team. They have bottled water there at the high school. We'll make sure if a child needs water, we get the water. And so Dr. Boynton will set up that procedure at the high school, and we'll get that out to families.
That would be great. Yeah. And Kirk, do you plan on sending out, now that this school committee has heard your complete report here, and we've heard from Rob, and you're kind of devising some remediation here for the hydration piece, can you send out an email or maybe update the community maybe by Friday?
Sure.
On this?
Sure, we can, yeah.
Everybody okay with that? All right, everybody, moving on to more exciting stuff, and that is our strategic work. So Kirk, I'll turn it over to you again.
Yeah, and tonight you're going to see a presentation about the K-5 English Language Arts and Literacy Curriculum Review Report. So I think, Madam Chair, rather than talk about that here, we'll just address that when we get to new business around the K-5 literacy report.
Yes, I did notice that was a duplicate on the agenda. So you're ready to move into new business?
Yeah.
All right. So guys, on to new business, and we are lucky to hear tonight from Scott Blanchard and understand his entry plan findings and hear his report. So Kirk, I'll let you cue it up.
Yeah, I would like to introduce Mr. Scott Blanchard. He's our fabulous principal at Mary Rowlandson Elementary School, and this is his first year. He came and told the committee about what his intentions are to learn about the school and the community this year, and he's here to report back on those findings. So, Mr. Blanchard, take it away.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing, and thank you to the school committee for having me tonight and providing me with this opportunity to present my findings. Before I begin, I also want to thank the Emory community at large, the students, staff, and families for their feedback and support through this process. I'd like to say thank you to my administrative assistant, Jennifer Fromer, and my assistant principal, Steve Grant, who are excellent thought partners for me through this process. I want to thank again Superintendent Downing and Assistant Superintendent Friend for their ongoing encouragement and support in my first year as principal. And I'd like to thank Sean O'Shea for his mentorship and guidance over the last 9 years that I feel has really prepared me to take on this role as principal. Back when I started this process a year ago, I wanted to be sure that, having been here at Mary Rowlandson for 8 years, that I really examined this, the school and its needs with an objective lens. I didn't want to make any assumptions about what our strengths are, what our areas of priority are, or the kind of leader I need to be in order to help us achieve our goals. So with that in mind, I drafted this entry plan, and which I hope to summarize for you right now. So in the first, do I have to share my screen? Can you guys see the slideshow?
Not yet.
Okay. Do I have to share that with you guys?
Yeah, you can certainly do that, or Alita could as well. Whatever's easier.
Scott, I got it.
You got it? Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alita.
Okay, so the first intended outcome was to understand the impact of our communication systems at MRE and the degree to which they build strong partnerships with families and how we might improve them. So some common themes that emerged are that parents and caregivers really value transparency. They want to know about student learning outcomes, but they also want to know about our priorities as a learning organization and our school-wide initiatives. They are looking for opportunities also for the homeschool connection. We've received feedback from parents who reported just being able to, they enjoyed knowing what was going on in the classrooms day to day and being able to have conversations with their children at home at night in order to be able to reinforce and support the learning that was going on at school. So our considerations for next steps will be to continue to gather feedback from families about the effective ways we can communicate with them to provide them that information, to potentially identify exemplars that are already being used in the building for home communication and sharing those with others so that we can have some consistency. To that end, we also want to create some common expectations in the building around the types of things that are being communicated and how they're being communicated, and also to continue to utilize our online platforms such as ThrillShare for the communications they need to be more timely. We've received a lot of positive feedback this year, particularly about that tool and how we've used it to get messages out when needed. Outcome 2 is to understand the ways in which our process for communicating student progress impacts student learning and growth. The interesting thing about this one was, as I was trying to see if there was a direct correlation between how we communicate student learning outcomes, what was the effect that it had? And I didn't find a direct correlation between the communications and the outcomes, how it affects the outcomes. But what I did uncover was that in order for teachers to prepare to have these conversations with families, it connects very directly with the PLC work that we've been engaging in. Specifically, in preparing for those communications, it behooves us to really look at the 4 questions that drive the PLC work. What do we want our students to know and be able to do? How will we know that they've learned it? What will we do? How will we respond if they haven't learned what we intended? And how will we enrich and extend the learning for those students who have demonstrated mastery? So in the process of preparing ourselves to have these effective conversations with parents about student learning and student learning outcomes, what it does is it reinforces and strengthens our PLC process, and there's a direct connection there. What it also does is it helps reinforce the 3 big ideas of the PLC, which are a focus on student learning, results orientation, and collaborative culture. So for our next steps, I think we're going to be looking at developing systems for communicating with students about their learning. I'd like to involve them in the process and extend that communication piece beyond families and talk to kids about it and have them set goals for themselves so that they understand their learning and where they're headed, and they can contribute and have a voice in that conversation about what they want their outcomes to be. We're going to continue to support teachers with data analysis processes and using our universal screener reports to understand the student learning outcomes and communicate those out. And also been thinking about an idea of having some student learning data nights potentially to invite parents in and to talk to them about the reports that we share with them and what those mean, and see if they have any questions, just to build a better understanding so that we can engage them in some thoughtful conversation about it. Intended outcome 3 is to examine the development of our PLC and determine how I can best support our staff in their capacity to effectively implement the process and to understand the why behind the work. Some common themes that arose there are, first, that understanding the why is important. We did a lot of work this year around implementation of PLCs, and the teachers have all been working hard in learning the procedures and just the way of doing things in a professional learning community. And through it all, they've remained very open, and they've asked some good questions, and they've really been engaged in the process, and I thank them very much for that. In addition, our coaches have been an excellent support to us in our first year of implementation. In addition, we have looked at shared leadership. This year, I formed a guiding coalition for our school and a guiding coalition of teacher leaders to help with the PLC implementation. And the first thing that we did, the first two big jobs we accomplished were we created a new mission and vision for Mary Rowlandson, which I'll be rolling out and sharing with the community soon. The academic impact that we're seeing as a result of this work is that 71.7% of our students met or exceeded growth targets in reading so far this year. 72.3% have met or exceeded growth targets in math, and 77.9% have met or exceeded growth targets in early literacy skills. Our considerations for next steps include really focusing on that fourth question of the PLC work, which is how do we enrich and extend the learning for students who demonstrate mastery. Each year, I feel like we build on that a little bit at a time. But next year, now that we have some other pieces in place, I really want to focus on that aspect of it. We're continuing to examine and determine what our essential standards are for ELA and math in our grade level teams. Another area that we want to focus on for next year is the writing of common formative assessments so that teachers have a clear understanding of, as they're trying to answer that second question, how do we know if they've learned it? The common formative assessments really help them determine what are the learning targets that we're trying to gather data on, and does the assessment that we're giving the students really give us the information that answers that question for us? So common formative assessment, that process of building those will help with that. I'm also looking to, again, share the leadership to lead the meetings with teachers and have them facilitate and set the agenda. This year, I did a lot of it. Steve Grant did a lot of it. Our coaches did a lot of that. But I'm really looking to transition that and hand it over to the teachers for next year. And also, I want to develop our guiding coalition as PLC experts that can act as models and support implementation going forward. Outcome 4 is to analyze our SEL data to determine the social and emotional learning priorities and to understand the impact of our practices on our students' well-being. Some common themes are, from the beginning, as far back as the winter of 2022, grit and emotional regulation came up as priority areas for us. They're the areas we scored the lowest back in the winter of 22. Students had 45% favorable responses to questions involving grit and 51% favorable responses to questions related to emotional regulation. So we've been engaging in some initiatives at the school level, at the grade level, and at the classroom level to address these things. And as a result, our grit has increased by 10 points, which is the biggest gain of any of the areas that's assessed through Panorama. And our emotional regulation scores have increased by 4 points, which is the second highest amount. So there's still some work to do there, but we are seeing steady growth. Some considerations for next steps include continuing our work with Dr. Epstein in embedding that calm, compassionate teaching and those strategies in our day-to-day work, expanding on the current initiatives that we have. For instance, our third grade right now is piloting an initiative that they're doing in the grade level to address grit specifically with all the students mixed up throughout the grade level, and it seems to be working pretty well. So we'd like to take things like that and potentially expand them to other grade levels in the future. I want to do a deep dive into the Panorama data to look not only at the each domain, but what are the questions specifically within that domain that are being asked and how are students responding them, so that we can have a more specific picture about how students are responding to the different prompts and what that could mean for them and what they need. We're going to continue to build our sense of community and reinforce our SEL with all school meetings next year, held on a regular basis. And in the fall, we're in conjunction with our PTO, we're going to have a kindness week. Outcome 5 is to engage stakeholders in order to define our current priorities for school safety and evaluate how we're addressing them. Common themes with safety are in the earlier this year, I went and I visited all the classrooms and spoke to the kids about things that they thought we were doing well and areas that they felt needed our attention. And again, the students reported that they feel safe here at Emory, that the adults in the building help keep them safe. In addition to that, I would say that our staff here is diligent always. We don't have many incidences that require kind of an intervention. But when things do come up, when there is a question that could involve safety of the building or the people, well, then they react and respond appropriately and very quickly. So they know what to do and they know what steps to take. And thank goodness we don't have to do it that often. Some areas for improvement, though, still continue to be the limitations of our PA system, in that we have areas of the building that are noisy, such as the cafeteria when it's full of students, the band room, places like that, where it's hard to hear the all-call system. So if a message needs to go out related to school safety, it's hard to hear in those areas sometimes. So we're looking at ways that we can potentially improve communication in those areas that are noisy, and also areas where it's hard to hear the PA system, like outside, if a class is outside for recess or PE or something like that. And then also our use of the chat. We have a school safety chat that we use whenever we do these drills in practice, so that we can silently communicate to one another about what's happening. And we need to just get better at embedding that into it needs to become second nature to us. So when something happens, we're doing a drill or whatever, that we're immediately jumping on that chat and we're using that to communicate. So next steps are, we'll continue to debrief and reflect after drills. The staff always have great comments and suggestions and thoughtful questions after those drills that help us, pinpoint areas for improvement. We're going to include next year, through the work of our Lancaster Safety Committee, we've decided that we're going to include regular time in staff meetings next year for discussing scenarios. So throwing a scenario out there to the teachers, having them talk about it in small groups. How would you respond? What do you think? What questions come up for you around this? And then opening it up to the bigger group to share ideas and responses to those. Just to keep them in the habit of thinking about these things and appropriate responses based on what they're faced with. Like I said, we're hoping to explore some options for potential visual supports in those areas that get loud and it's hard to hear the PA system. We want to make sure that all of our substitute teachers are informed, so we'll have to put a process in place for that to make sure that when we have subs entering the building, if something were to happen, they know how to respond appropriately. And then again, embedding that use of the chat for communication whenever a situation like this comes up so that it becomes second nature. Outcome 6 is to understand MRE's strengths as a learning community and to identify priorities for continued growth and improvement. So to begin with, our strengths are, of course, our wonderful students. They're curious, they're joyful, they're amazing individuals, and we're lucky to be working with them each and every day. We have dedicated staff here at MRE who I'm proud to work with on a daily basis. Our parents are very much involved and seek opportunities to become as involved as they can be and to be really good partners with us in the work that we do. So those are our strengths. Some of our priorities, as you'll see listed there, came out of conversations I had a year ago with staff when I found out I was going to become MRE's next principal. I sought to meet with every member of our staff and to ask them a couple of questions about what do you see as our strengths, what are the areas that need our attention, and how I can support them individually. And the themes that came out of those conversations, I was able to speak to 90% of the staff at the time. And from those, some themes emerged. And the themes are sense of community, communication, admin presence in the classrooms, and clear expectations for student learning and behavior. So To address those, we've done some things this year. In the next section, I'll show you some feedback that I got recently from teachers about how they feel those things are going. But based on all the information that we've gathered over the course of the year, to address sense of community, again, we're looking to have all school assemblies on a regular basis next year to bring everyone together. We did a buddy classroom initiative this year where classrooms from different grade levels were partnered up. Classrooms that wouldn't necessarily get together for any reason in particular, just so that they could learn about each other and come together and have activities and build community that way. And work on increasing our sense of relational trust. Our sense of community isn't going to improve the way we want it to until everybody feels comfortable and confident with that relational trust piece. In addition, communication. We're going to continue our weekly newsletter to staff, which is the MRE memo. Big thanks to Steve Grant for bringing that to MRE this year. It's been an invaluable tool, and we've gotten tons of positive feedback about it. And I'd like to leverage our teacher leaders and our guiding coalition to be a vehicle for communicating things to staff when need be. So if staff have questions, it doesn't necessarily have to be me or Steve that they go see. But it could be one of these teacher leaders or members of the guiding coalition who might have information and be able to facilitate those conversations. For administrator presence in classrooms, I've signed up for breakthrough coaching, which some of our principals in the district have engaged in. I'm signed up to go in September. I'm very excited about this because it's very important for me to be in classrooms, and I did not feel this year that I was able to do that as much as I wanted to. And through breakthrough coaching, my understanding is that I'll have at least 2 days a week, every week, dedicated to being in classrooms. So I'm excited about that possibility, and that's in September. And then clear expectations for student learning and behavior. We want to revisit our code of conduct. We want to make sure that the teachers have it and have a chance to sit down and look at it and ask questions about it. In terms of our expectations for behavior, in terms of our expectations for learning, we're going to continue to work, as I said, on our essential standards and writing learning targets and success criteria based on those essential standards. That's going to be a big drive for next year. We're going to continue with our school-wide Heart of a Husky initiative that we started this year, where we're celebrating the things that that kids are doing to be positive members of our school community, and again, the all school assemblies. And then lastly, 7 is to engage stakeholders to determine how I can best serve the MRE community in our collaborative efforts to achieve our goals. So common themes from that are that MRE is a great place to be. It really is. I'm super excited to be here. I'm very excited that my daughters get to go to school here, that I'm a member of the Lancaster community. We've gotten lots of positive feedback from families I have over the course of the year through listening sessions and conversations and things like that. And there's evidence of it in the day-to-day, just walking down the halls and seeing the work that the kids are doing and the experiences that they're having. Collaboration is also going to be important, specifically not just among staff, but also collaboration with families and collaboration with students. And that, of course, is built on the whole notion of transparency and relational trust, which is an ongoing theme for this work. Some other common themes are there's still work to be done. So, and the following bullet points are the results of the survey that I sent out recently to staff to say, how am I doing on the things that we identified as priorities for us? So sense of community, 44% of staff who responded, and I think the end there was, it was like 27 out of roughly 75 staff, so about a third. So 44% of the respondents said that there has been improvement, 29 said no change, and 30% said it sense of community has declined this year. 78% of staff who responded said that communication has improved, 11% said no change, and 11% says it's declined. Administrator presence in the classroom, 33% said it has improved, 44% said no change, and 22% said declined. And then clear expectations for student learning and behavior, 37% say that it has improved, 41% said no change, and 22% said it declined. So our considerations for next steps are, I really want to continue with the student listening sessions. I'm about to schedule another round of those to wrap up the year in June. And I'm going to continue those next year because I feel like the input that they provide is really valuable. And I think it's important for them to have a voice in our school improvement efforts. Something else is to establish a student advisory panel to the principal. I'd like to see if we can get a group of students to be able to meet with me on a regular basis, to share ideas and provide me with feedback about how things are going. I'd like to continue to gather feedback from the staff related to those areas that I identified earlier, just to make sure that we're continuing to improve on those things. Part of this process, I did listening sessions with parents. I'd like to continue with those. I'd like to have a time dedicated at least once each year to be able to invite parents in and have conversations about their thoughts about the direction the school is headed in and any thoughts that they have related to that. And then the big plan is to take all of the next steps that are identified in the previous sections of this report to develop an action plan for the coming school year. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening. That was a lot of information. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and present this to you. It was a great year of learning and reflection for me. I'm so grateful for all the support I've received, and I'm excited for next year. So thank you all.
Principal Blanchard, we really appreciate that. Very thoughtful presentation. And I will hand it back over to Kirk. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Blanchard. We really appreciate the time, effort, and energy you put into understanding and knowing your community. Sorry about the truncated evening as things have gone a little bit long, but we sure appreciate your efforts, so thank you.
Wonderful. So our next item on the new business agenda is a CPAC update. And I wonder, Alita, is Pam with us?
No,
Our
she
CPAC chair?
No, she sent an email saying that she logged on at 6 and logged off at 7:30.
Got it. Okay, so I did let her know that we had executive session first, but because it went so long, it seems she was not able to hang with us. Totally understandable. I can touch base with her separately. So we are going to move on to our K-5 literacy report, and I'll hand it over to Kirk to cue this up. I am also keeping my eye on the clock. We have 6 minutes until we do the up or down, but we have quite a bit left to go, my friends. So in honor of Mike and Karen's last meeting, we're going to just really hang in here for all of this important work still on the agenda. I hope y'all don't mind. Can I get a thumbs up affirmation that at least you're at home right now? Okay. I'm seeing many thumbs. Dana's drinking her coffee. Thanks, Dana. Okay, so Kirk, moving on to our next item, K-5 literacy report.
I'm going to turn directly over to Assistant Superintendent Friend. Take it away, Laura.
Waiting, and I'm all fumbling with my mouse. I think Alita's going to share the presentation. I would like to thank you, Superintendent Downing, and thank you to the committee for allowing us an opportunity to provide an update, an exciting update about where we are with our K-5 literacy curriculum review process. I would like to thank Laura Padgington, our curriculum director for ELA and social studies, for hanging with us and joining me this evening to present our update and even more importantly, engaging and leading all of this great work. We're pleased to share with the committee an update this evening. We have provided for you a report, a full report that encompasses our processes to date as they relate to our curriculum review, and that can be found in the meeting materials. It's also included as a hyperlink within these slides. So much more detail found in the report. This evening, Ms. Pagington and I are going to provide an overview of our phase 2 process, as well as plans for phase 3 of the process implement. As the committee will remember, Neshoba field tested 2 high-quality curriculum this winter and spring, Wit and Wisdom and Imagine Learning EL Education. Included in our presentation overview tonight will be our most recent processes and where those processes have taken us. We're very excited. Next slide. This slide simply serves as a reminder. Our curriculum review process was and is predicated on the instructional vision that we developed for K-5 literacy by our Neshoba team. And our goal was to select instructional resources to help our teachers lift this vision for our students and their learning into reality and into our classrooms. So this was our driving force throughout our process and continues to be our beacon. Next slide. On this slide, we provide a link to our full report, which includes more specific information about our processes in detail, beginning from phase 1. Having previously presented this information about our processes to date, this link in this report is just intended to provide all of the information in one place for the committee and for our community. Next slide. As a reminder, our processes and timeline are provided here alongside our timeline for completion. The area highlighted in green is where we are currently and where we are headed in the fall and serves as the focus for tonight's overview. This spring, we spent a considerable amount of time in that phase 2 select process, and Ms. Pagington is going to provide more information about the why we landed on our selection as it relates to the selection process. So we're going to turn it over to Ms. Pagington, and Ms. Masterson, you can move into the next slide because Ms. Pagington is going to take it from here to talk about our evaluate and select and implement. Laura?
Good evening.
Yep.
We have, as we reported previously, been engaged with a large number of educators from across the district and who worked tirelessly in every phase of this process, and we are deeply indebted to their commitment to this work. And as part of our phase 2 work, we examined the high quality instructional materials that aligned with our instructional vision and our Neshoba priorities that we have previously shared. And through our work in phase 2, we investigated through field testing in 15 classrooms across the district, in extensive examination of curricular materials, gathering feedback about the resources and the experiences of students and teachers. And we also engaged in visits to 4 different school districts that have implemented those curricula to give us more of a sense of what it's like in implementation, not just in field testing. Next slide, please. So as a result of phase 2, after examining both EL and Wit and Wisdom, which are both high quality curricular materials that have strengths, and either option would have served Neshoba well, and strengths were identified as well as areas where Neshoba's instructional vision would be realized in each curricula, but ultimately through a consensus-driven process based on the wide variety of feedback that we gathered throughout all of our work, we ultimately selected Imagine Learning EL Education as our core Tier 1 instructional material for reading, writing, speaking, listening. And some of the strengths that were cited through our process were, in terms of reading, it certainly met our priority of providing complex, authentic, knowledge building grade level text for students. We saw explicit instruction in reading, writing, and speaking, listening, and language standards. And it was also cited for its accessibility for students, and some of the features of the curriculum will allow for a variety of implementations. For example, universally designed lessons and strategies to support multilingual learners, along with pacing that is going to support our instruction in our classrooms in Neshoba as well. And so we're excited to share a little more about Imagine Learning and EL education tonight, but also know that a lot more information will be coming as we continue with implementation. Next slide, please. So Imagine Learning EL education is designed around a read, write, talk, and think framework. And what that means is that throughout the 4 modules that are found in each grade level, which contain 3 units, the Read, Write, Talk, Think framework has students begin with developing and building background knowledge, both through their use of a variety of different texts, whether it's classroom read-alouds or access to individual student texts. Then they extend their reading and their research and close reading and independent reading as they progress through the grade levels in the 2nd unit. And in the 3rd unit, we find an extended writing and performance task. The reading and writing instruction is integrated throughout. So this is something that we're really excited about, that rather than there being a separate reading and writing workshop, the natural integration of the 2 domains happens. And that means that students are writing about what they're reading about, and it's going to lead to students being able to really demonstrate a lot more of what they learn through all of their access to information in the texts that are part of the curriculum. They're going to be exposed to a wide variety of genres of writing, and they'll also have explicit instruction in language skills, which is a high priority for the district. There are some other components to the curriculum that we'll look to down the road that will even further bolster what is offered, but we're beginning as is recommended with the implementation of the core module in our first year of implementation. Next slide, please. It's important to note that we also spent a lot of time examining the foundational skills, which are obviously so critical. And Neshoba has had foundations as our core instruction for foundational skills. And as a means of comparison and exploring as part of curriculum review, we also examined the EL skills block foundational program, and that was field tested in classrooms. And while there certainly were things in the program that people who field tested identified as nice, it didn't offer anything that was going to mean that we should change from our current curriculum that we have invested in and have in our classrooms, Wilson's Foundations, which is a really high quality foundational skills curriculum. However, as part of our review, we certainly worked to identify areas where we could bolster and strengthen the current foundations practices. And we're in the process of meeting those action steps right now, ensuring that every teacher has the supplies that they need, providing refresher training as needed. And we're really excited about providing foundations decodable texts that are aligned with the current foundations scope and sequence. And I know that the teachers in the early grades are really excited about the decodable text coming to their classroom. So we're looking to get those. And we also will be expanding foundations to grade 3, not next year, in the following year. And we continue to explore Heggerty, which is specific to phonemic awareness, but works to be integrated into primary grade classrooms. So we have a number of different action steps there that are going to bolster our already really great things that are happening in classrooms, but just make sure that our teachers and students have what they need to do the best they can. Next slide, and back to Assistant Superintendent Friend.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Lots of information, and thank you for sharing. Phase 3, implement. So the selection and planning of a new curriculum is only as strong as the plans for an effective and successful implementation, which also includes the support and monitoring of that implementation. And so to that end, we're committed. We've identified and shared some immediate next steps that will be happening now and through the summer here for you and into the fall. Plans for these have either happened or are fully underway. And those include targeted training and professional development for our educators through the support from EL and our instructional coaches and Laura and myself, as well as the importance of communicating with our families about what this new literacy curriculum means, how it will look, and how they can support their children at home. So to that end, Laura and I have been developing thinking around an all you need to know for our families. Plans are underway for a family night in September. And of course, we're going to support our educators during open house and curriculum night in the fall, as well with information, because we know that our partners have been supportive of our process and they're partners in learning for our students and their children. So bringing them in and making sure that we're communicating with them about this new exciting curriculum and what that means for Neshoba is really important to us. And so plans are underway for our family engagement piece there. And then finally, last slide. In the end, we're excited about our new steps and what they mean for our students and for our educators. We know that we have a great amount of work ahead. We're incredibly thankful for the hard work of our curriculum committee, our field testers, and all those in between. And we are confident in our processes so far, and we're really excited about our next steps. I am especially thankful. We are especially thankful for the leadership of Laura Padgington, the support of Superintendent Downing, Finance and Operations Director, Mr. Ross Mulcairn, to our school community, and for supporting our curriculum efforts on behalf of Neshoba, and to you, our school committee, for your support for our current and for our future students. It's going to have a great impact, and we're really, really excited about the launch, as are our teachers. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura, and the entire team that you listed at the beginning there. It's a really fantastic group of people doing this work. So that wraps that up, my friends. Does anybody have any quick comments or questions for Laura? All right, so seeing none, Laura, thank you again for that. And we wish you the best of luck as you roll that out over the summer and into the fall. Our kids will benefit.
Thank you.
So without objection, I am hoping that the school committee will allow me to bump the quorum rule discussion to our next meeting. Seeing none, we will bump that to the next agenda item. I'm also wondering if Sharon will humor me here and allow us to move the school committee manual presentation to the June 5th organizational meeting as well. Thanks, Sharon. And as long as there's no objection from the rest of the committee, we will do that. And we've already announced to the community the need for Dear Jay volunteers. So moving on to finance and operations. So I'm wondering if, Kirk, do you think, is there anything here that is movable, or do we need to just power through these things?
I will defer to Mr. Mulcairn on that.
If you can do it quick, Ross, which I'm sure you can go kind of one at a time.
I will deliver brevity as much as possible.
Thank you.
Okay. As far as the April operations report, this includes a better estimate of our projected expenditures as the year ticks on here. Nothing significant of change. This was reviewed with budget and warrant last week. So if there's any questions, I can take them. Otherwise, certainly we can move on to the next agenda item.
Any questions? All right, everyone. So, Ross, just really quick from me, when do you actually close everything out and present to us the end of year report?
You will get the end of the year operations report, not to be confused with the DESI end of the year report. But the end of year operations report will be probably October, unless there's time in September, but we're still cleaning things up with regards to open POs over the summer and rollovers and things like that. So, yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thanks to Budget and Warrant too for looking this over. So let's move on.
Great. So again, I'm going to try to use efficiency here. There's a significant contract up for discussion, but thanks for the opportunity to provide you an update on the procurement of food service management. So our goal this evening is your approval of the execution of this contract by the administration. At the last meeting, I shared that we received 3 proposals, all from reputable firms. I did provide a memo in anticipation of questions from school committee. I hope that was informative. I'm just going to quickly touch on a couple of things and maybe expand. This is a draft. This template is required by DESI through the RFP and all the way through the execution of contract. There's a great deal of oversight to ensure that there's adherence to governmental laws, regulations, guidelines, standards, et cetera, when it comes to food services. So I've done a lot of communication with DESI, Nutrition Services, over this. This contract has been reviewed by our legal counsel, both Attorney Mello and also Attorney Rhodes, who does more deep dives on contractual language. It was reviewed by him as well. And our legal counsel has provided motion language as well for this evening, which we will get to at the end of my short and brief explanation. So again, the contract does not change the employment of any kitchen staff as we continue to hire, retain, and work with those individuals under the Unit C collective bargaining agreement. It's a 1-year contract with options to renew based on the evaluation criteria and DESI prescribed methods. We are looking to award this contract to Whitson's Culinary Group. It does guarantee a return to the district of $441,000 in $441,842 for the first year of the contract, less what we have built in for offsets of $160,000. You're looking at approximately a surplus at the end of the year of $280,000. So a couple of things that I want to point out, that this would allow us to work with them with not just the food service manager component, which is very administrative, but also have them bring in a chef manager to work in our kitchens and with our kitchen staff on all manner of things when it comes to variety, innovation, efficiency of kitchens, all those types of things, and also provides for a part-time sustainability manager. I'll talk about that in a little bit. We do also have within the contract that they need to form an implemented advisory board, which would consist of students, parents, staff, and the purpose of that is to develop our school nutrition program. So yesterday I had the great opportunity to visit Whitson's Food Services in the Lexington schools, both at the high school and one of the elementary schools. Accompanying me were 2 of our kitchen managers and the parent representative who served on the proposal evaluation team. So I think I've seen thousands of school lunches in my time, and I truly believe that this is probably one of the best possible things I've seen when it comes to school nutrition. And is definitely the best possible direction for our students. We saw some amazing things happening with a variety of options, nutrition at the forefront, and there's some really great work that they've done with sustainability partnerships in the community when it comes to composting, recycling, and supply choices. So the feedback that I received from the kitchen managers and the parent rep was positive and similar in sentiments. These people are experts in school nutrition and food services within schools. They'll work in tandem with our kitchen teams, our administration, our community, and students to develop and implement a vision for school nutrition for Neshoba in the future. There's obviously a significant amount of change and transition that comes with this, but we'll be off and running prior to July 1 if we move forward with the contract, and then really get into it over the summer and be ready to start up at the beginning of the school year. So again, this evening, the district's looking for approval of the award of the food services management contract to Whitson's Culinary Group as set forth in the district's RFP. and that the contract is subject to any final written contract terms that would be acceptable to the superintendent and district legal counsel. And lastly, that the superintendent be authorized to execute such a contract on the district's behalf.
Amy Cohen, can I lean on you to start with a motion before we move to discussion? Yep, she's getting it.
Yep. I move that the committee vote to approve the award of a food services management contract to Whitson's Culinary Group on the terms set forth in the district's request for proposal contract issued on.
The contract start date would be July 1.
Thank you, July 1, 2024. And Whitson's Culinary Group's proposal in response thereto, subject to final written contract terms acceptable to the superintendent and district legal counsel, and to authorize the superintendent to execute such contract on the district's behalf.
Hey, everyone, so that was a long motion. It is in the chat for you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Any discussion on this contract? Joe?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, I want to just thank Superintendent Downing and Mr. Mulcairn for, I know you had our school council look it over this and you offered me an opportunity to kick it around a little bit myself. And I apologize. My schedule this week was such that I wasn't able to spend any time, or extensive amount of time looking over that document. Not that you pay me to do it anyways, but my question though is just, and it's a very just minor and procedural matter. The document you presented us, Ms. Mulcairn, the contract starts actually after your memorandum. Your memorandum isn't incorporated into the contract, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the only thing I just noticed on the contract, you start off with the FSMC, and I know this is a draft. So when the final version of the contract is prepared, will they be replacing the FSMC, the Food Service Management Corporation, with the name Whitson's? Because FSMC it's not defined in the body of the contract. It's
Correct.
defined in your memorandum. But
Yes, so you'll also notice that starts on, I think, page 21, maybe. And the previous pages are the posted RFP. So at some point within there, you're absolutely correct that it would note that Whitson's is the FSMC and the SFA is the Neshoba Regional School District. That is correct.
And the CN is a child nutrition program?
Yeah, I need to maybe double check that one, but yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Did we get the opportunity to review the document, the contract?
It's in the meeting materials.
Which document?
This would be the
Food service contract.
Oh, I see. So it's all I missed all the pages after the memo. Okay. So it talks about guaranteed return of $441,000. What's being returned to us?
So that would be, think of it as all of the reimbursements through reimbursable meals, plus any revenues that come in through a la carte, those types of things, less our labor costs, their costs, procurement costs, equipment costs, those types of things. And the remaining amount is $441. We have $160,000 in offsets in the budget. So 441 less 160 puts us at about 280, which is under the allowable threshold for ongoing surplus within food service as dictated by the state. So this would also be them working with us on spending down our existing surplus. I know that I've talked about this in the past. What they'll be able to do is to really work with us on vision and making sure that we have continuity across all of our kitchens and our cafeterias, not just in terms of menus, but also experience for students.
Amy Cohen.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm really happy to learn that a sustainability manager is going to be part of this agreement, and that someone will have responsibility for looking at ways to reduce waste and incorporate composting, because I know that there have been initiatives in the past that have tried to do this and haven't really gotten anywhere because there's just no one had time or bandwidth to take it on. So.
Yeah, and I think what we saw in Lexington was obviously multiple years of work being put in, not just by Whitson's, but by the community members as well, and working with local green teams and the school. So it will take time, but having a focused effort in bringing expertise to the table and putting these things together and the outreach to local boards is really important.
I'd also add that I'm glad to hear that the advisory board is something that is worked in that includes parents and the end users. I know that Whitson's works at my school and they work with our student council to kind of obtain feedback and react to it and kind of address not only the nutritional needs, but also trying to improve the experience. And so I look forward to seeing more of that. Any other questions? All right, or discussion, I should say. There's a motion on the floor. So seeing no more discussion, we're going to take a vote to accept the contract. I vote yes. Mike Horish.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Sharon.
Yes.
Shondor.
Yes.
Amy Cohen.
Yes.
Amy Vessels.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
And Karen.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ross. Let's move
Thank you,
on to
everyone.
the next. Yeah, that's great. Let's move on to the next piece about food service rates.
Yep, as mentioned at the last meeting, we're bringing these forward for today, and we're just seeking your approval for these rates.
Okay, so I'm so sorry. Amy, do you have a motion for this?
I don't see one, but I can make one.
I don't see one either. Ross, this is something that you need a vote on.
Correct. So the motion would essentially be approval of food services rates presented for FY25.
Amy?
Yeah, I move to accept the proposed fiscal year 25 NRSC school nutrition rates as presented.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll take the vote. I vote yes. Mike? He said yes.
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. So the next items here are some pretty amazing grants. And so, Ross, why don't you tee them up and then Amy can give us a motion.
Yes, thank you. And Assistant Superintendent Friend may add in if necessary. The first one is the Skills Capital and Technology Equipment Grant. This is through the Executive Office of Education, not DESE, but they still work in tandem and similar systems. So in short, this ties right into our advanced manufacturing and engineering pathway that we've talked about and was presented by Mr. Anandropoulos at a couple months ago at school committee, and is a major piece of the innovation happening at the high school. So what we're looking for tonight is approval of the grant in total of $74,900, which includes a significant amount of equipment and upgrades to those current rooms, and obviously anything that would continue would go on to the next building as well. I would like to thank Mr. Andy LeBlanc for doing a lot of the legwork on understanding what's available and what's out there and what's needed, and doing the research and putting together essentially what is the budget for this grant. Thank you.
Amy, would you like to give us a motion?
Sure. I move to accept the FC 30 TC Skills Capital Grant as presented in accordance with school committee policy DD.
I'm going to second that. Any discussion on this grant? Shondor?
I just see their drones in there and want to make sure that the district complies with FAA regulations for Part 107 and the rest of it, the use of drones.
So noted. I'm sure that, Kirk, you will take note of that FAA regulation. Thank you, Shondor. What would we do without you? Not sure. Any other comments or questions? All right, everybody, let's take the vote on this very large and important grant. I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
Excellent. Let us know about the second one, Russ.
Yes, thank you. So this is for Project Lead the Way. This is a grant. Although the money will not come into the district and be expended out, it's still a grant nonetheless that we're taking part in. And this, again, will support programming at the high school. And this is through their engineering subsection. Assistant superintendent for would use a better term than me on that one. But essentially this is the engineering side of the Project Lead the Way grant. And the total is $16,000 covering participation fees and training.
Excellent. Amy, a motion.
Yeah, I move to accept the Project Lead the Way grant as presented in accordance with the school committee policy DD.
I second that. Any discussion? Yeah, Jackie.
I was just curious if this is going to support the innovation pathways to any extent.
Ross or Kirk?
I would turn that over to Assistant Superintendent Friend.
Laura.
Yes, yes, the answer is yes. And not exclusive to the students enrolled in our pathways too. So we're beginning with 2 courses, and then we'll be looking at adding two courses the following year. So this grant will support the training and the materials for our educators to get that going.
Laura, does Project Lead the Way exist at Neshoba High School right now?
No,
Oh,
no, not yet, but it will.
awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't know that. So, okay, so this is a part of the innovation pathways. Continuing on with that.
Yeah. And we'll also count towards an advanced coursework component of innovation pathways too, which has higher ed and positive implications for higher ed. So we're excited about that potential for our students as well.
Fantastic. All right, any other discussion? All right, let's take a vote on this grant. I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, guys, that is it for finance and operations. Thank you very much, Ross, for that incredibly succinct rundown.
Because I was supposed to be done at 8:20. My apologies.
Not your fault. So on to unfinished business. We have the very important summative evaluation of our superintendent, Kirk Downing. And as you guys know, this is in the meeting materials. We had each individual member of the school committee by regulation complete an individual evaluation of the superintendent based upon his self-evaluation. We then had the personnel subcommittee meet to discuss and compile a composite, but the lion's share was done by the brilliant Sharon Pock. She has posted that composite. Thank you so much. Goes out to you, Sharon, because man, that's a lot of work, and we really appreciate you taking that on. So everybody, this is something that we do take a vote on, and I am going to lean on Amy. Well, maybe, is there anybody who has any commentary because you are concerned about the content of the composite evaluation? You would like something kind of significantly changed? All right, so for anyone who has not reviewed, anybody in the community who's still watching and hasn't reviewed this composite report, you should know that we have completed the evaluation and we have assigned to our superintendent the rating of exemplary. And that is now going to be what is up for vote. And so Amy, can I lean on you for a motion on the eval?
Yes, I move to approve the composite NRSC summative superintendent evaluation report as presented. The overall summative performance of exemplary will be reported to DESE.
I second that. Any discussion on the motion? Amy, go ahead.
Well, I should defer to Superintendent Downing to go.
Kirk, would you like to make a small comment here?
Well, I'm humbled by that rating and many of the comments and the evaluation. I just have to put into the record that when we talk about exemplary, we're talking about the work of a multitude of people that have been advancing the work of the district. And certainly I recognize that my job is to facilitate, guide, lead, and promote that vision. But it's the people of our school system that make great things happen. So I think the evaluation you're providing is an evaluation of just continued progress. And that's our goal here in Neshoba, to always get better every year. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want the public record to note that some of the language in the evaluation, I know we're short on time, and I wanted to commend Sharon for pulling together the compilation so eloquently and succinctly in capturing all of our thoughts. But, you know, the summary says that we are fortunate to have a transformative and visionary leader in Superintendent Downing, and that he works tirelessly on behalf of our district to drive innovative growth, positive change for our students, teachers, families, and communities. He seeks connections with students, with teachers and staff, with families, and throughout the community. And we note that it goes on to note how many ways he's gone to improve practices throughout the district. And I just want to make sure that the public heard those words. So that's all.
And I do know that in my weekly conversation with Kirk, that you guys should also know, and the community should know, that this is not all rainbows and, you know, flowers. There's a lot of feedback in this evaluation that continues to push the envelope for our kids and for our school district. And Kirk is 100% up to the challenge of, you know, how we can get even better next year. And that will kind of draw, as always, the cycle of inquiry requires us to use what we've done this year and the feedback that has been given to set goals for the following year. And that is the job of the personnel subcommittee over the summer, and working with Kirk to kind of set the bar one more time in that aspirational zone that we so appreciate Kirk living in. So if there's no further debate, we're going to take the vote. All right. So on the motion to accept the evaluation, I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Moving on, we have the second reading of the parent communication policy, which has been worked on so diligently by our policy subcommittee and our administrative team. And so, Amy Vessels, could you just kind of tee this up for us, what we're being asked to accept here tonight?
Yes. So there was only
Did I lose her?
You may have.
Bummer. Kirk, do you possibly know what she was about to say?
Yeah. There are two adjustments that we made. There was a piece in the 48-hour response. We removed the words teaching and learning because there may be topics that go beyond just the teacher and learning. That was put in there because health and safety were put into another category. But we thought that made it simple. And then the other clause, there was a clause stricken out around confidentiality. We actually do use email for confidentiality, and we're actually looking at systems for instance, IEPs can be sent electronically, and those are confidential documents. So eliminating confidential documents through the use of email just wouldn't make sense operationally. So we removed that clause from there as well.
All right, so Amy's back. Thank you, Kirk, for filling in the gap there. Amy, Kirk just identified the two changes that you made. Did you want to add anything?
No, those were the only changes that we made based on people's feedback.
Excellent. Joe, a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question regarding interpretation of the policy. It's the provision regarding safety concerns, and it says that messages regarding student safety shall receive an acknowledgement of receipt and be forwarded to the supervising administrator for appropriate action. I'm just curious as to perhaps what the superintendent or even the policy subcommittee's interpretation of that is. Does this provision fall under the 48-hour regulation, or would so if there's a suit, just so I'm clear, if a safety concern is raised and it's sent to a particular staff member, they have 48 hours to acknowledge receipt and then turn that over to the supervising administrator for appropriate action? Is that the intent of this provision?
No, the intent is upon receiving an email regarding health and safety, there would be an immediate acknowledgement. Doesn't necessarily mean a response or a resolution, but acknowledgement and forwarded to the administrator. Because we don't, so for instance, if somebody would notice of harming themselves, we want to act on it quickly.
May I follow up, Madam Chair?
Please.
Yeah, no, so I agree with you, Kirk. That would be my interpretation as well, but you said that you added the word immediate before acknowledgement. It doesn't say, it says receive an acknowledgement of receipt. Perhaps the policy subcommittee would, are we voting on this tonight, Madam Chair?
We are, yeah, we are.
Would the policy subcommittee be objectionable to my suggesting an amendment to that provision? It just says, instead of receive an acknowledgement, to receive an immediate acknowledgement. Is that a fair characterization of what the policy stands for?
Kirk?
Perhaps it's immediate. What's tricky is, email isn't like a phone call that it rings in your ears. You have to go to your email to see the communication, which makes it tricky. So perhaps Attorney Gleason, it can read something to the effect of acknowledgement upon reading the email or upon reading the communication.
Fine,
something in that vein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, can I get a thumbs up if everybody is okay with inserting that small detail? Jackie? Okay. Okay. Any other comments or questions? So I would like a motion from Amy Cohen. Is it on there? Okay.
I think so. It's not, but I can make one.
Yeah, let's do it.
I move to approve policy IMJDE regarding parent caregiver communication response as presented and amended tonight.
I will second that. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, the motion should include the language that Superintendent Downing had suggested.
Oh,
I believe the motion is as
amend.
presented.
I said as presented and amended, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. I apologize.
that's all right.
Okay. That's enough, Joe?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear that. I apologize.
No, it's okay. All right, everybody, I'm not seeing any other discussion. So this is a huge work. And I'm so appreciative of Amy Vessels and Kirk pushing this with their committee through legal counsel and even through all of Kirk's contacts. It has been a fantastic collaboration. And I think that it will do great things, not only for our staff members, giving them some clarity, but also for our kids. So thanks so much. I vote yes. Mike? Mike said yes. Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Karen? She said yes, and Amy Vessels.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Flying now. Let's go over to the district physician contract.
Madam
Kirk?
Chair, just real quick, I just want the committee to know that we'll be reviewing this policy with the entire administrative council at our August retreat. so they can include it in their opening presentations to their faculty and staff to set the tone for the school year.
Excellent. Amy, we are looking to take a vote on the district physician contract. Can you start us off with a motion?
Yes, I move to authorize the superintendent to sign the 2024-2025. I think this is supposed to say FY physicians contract between the district and Dr. Russell Coleman. Dr. Coleman will receive a $5,000 stipend under the terms of the contract.
Amy, that's SY for school year.
School year. Okay, let me read it again. I move to authorize the superintendent to sign the 2024-2025 school year physicians contract between the district and Dr. Russell Coleman. Dr. Coleman will receive a $5,000 stipend under the terms of the contract.
Second that. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amy.
I didn't see that in the meeting materials.
Wasn't that in last week's meeting materials?
It was presented in last week's materials.
That's why. Got it.
And then, yeah, and you weren't present, so I think, right? Oh, bummer. Kirk, the stipend, does that represent an increase? I can't remember.
No, that is level, and I checked it with Dr. Coleman prior to the meeting as well, and so Dr. Coleman agrees.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? All right, let's take a vote. I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Karen? Amy Vessels?
Yes.
All right, everybody, fantastic. Thank you for that. Let's move on to the handbook vote, and Amy, perhaps you can put forth a motion.
I move to approve the NRHS school year 24-25 handbook as presented on May 8th, 2024.
I second that. Any discussion on the presentation we heard last time? Seeing none, let's take the vote. I vote yes. Mike? He said yes. Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Excellent. So thank you to Dr. Boynton for putting that forward and all that hard work. Let's move on to the next piece, which is the Director of Early Childhood. Amy, do you have a motion for this?
Yes, I move to approve the job description for the Director of Early Childhood as presented on May 8th, 2024.
I second that. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's take the vote. I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And Amy V. Frozen. Are you frozen, Amy Vessels? Darn. So she'll have to abstain. Let's go now to our last piece here. It is the school committee goals check-ins via subcommittee report. Here is what I'm thinking. And if I get a thumbs up from everyone, I will do this for you. Could each chair, as a final act of this term, this school committee term, could each chair please send me your kind of goal reflection that you were going to share tonight? I will type it into the spreadsheet that is on the meeting materials, and then make this I'll kind of share it with the committee on the 5th at the organizational meeting. And then this is the document that will drive our goal setting in August. Would that be okay for the subcommittee chairs? Do I have a thumbs up on that to just have you guys send me? Don't type it into the spreadsheet, just send it to me. All right, I'm not seeing anybody shaking their head violently, so good. All right, so let's move on to our subcommittee reports. And if there is no report, that is fine, but I'm just going to run through them really quickly. You tell me. To our budget and warrant chairman, is there anything to report, Mike?
We have a massive report this evening, which will last somewhere around 52 or 53 minutes.
Fantastic.
Our last meeting was on May the 14th. We evaluated progress towards the goals, which we'll email you. We provided feedback from the FY25 budget book. Madam Chair, we also have a recommendation to revise our warrant signature protocol. Should I just include that now as part of the report?
Yeah. And so why don't you give us the heads up on what you want to change, and then we can vote on the 5th.
Right. So the tension is that the outgoing chair of the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee, actually there will be no chair at the end of this year. And so warrants still have to be signed over the summer. So we want to modify the language so that the chair of the school committee, as voted in the organizational meeting, can sign off on warrants for the summer until a new chair for budget and warrant is voted on at the beginning of next year.
Excellent. So we'll include that in the June 5th planning calendar. Alita, would you mind putting that on the planning calendar for me for June 5th? That we need to modify the warrant signature protocol we developed. And thank you for that, Mike. Anything else from budget and warrant?
Nope.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say a final thank you for all of your time and energy and effort, not only on budget and warrant, but everywhere you go with regard to school committee. This is your last meeting, and we want you to know how appreciative we are. So, everybody give Mike a big heart or an applause. You're the best, Mike.
Thank you.
So over to communication, other than the school committee manual, anything to report, Sharon?
No, nothing to report. The school committee manual is in the meeting materials so people can look at it. However, I realized that I sent it as read only, and that meant that my comments, so the manual has comments alongside of it telling you where to find the comparable section in the existing manual, and those don't show up in the version that I had Alita post to the meeting materials. So I'm not quite sure how to do that. I have to figure that out, and then I'll make sure that people can get those notes as well.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. So yeah, let me know if you need any help with that.
I can do that for you.
Okay,
I'll just
thanks.
post it as a Google link instead of a PDF.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so then
was it a Word doc or a Google doc?
It was a
it's
Google
a Google doc. But I changed it so that it was view only, so that it couldn't be altered by mistake. And I didn't realize that that would take the comments out of it.
It's shared
share it with
us as a PDF.
Yeah.
Make Alita an editor and she can work her magic.
Thank you, Madam Chair, because I was going to say that we just had a discussion last week about deliberations through a Google Doc, and that will prevent that. So Ms. Masterson can work on it.
Aaron, I'll add Alita right now, okay?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Karen.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys for that, all that work. We will discuss that on the 5th. School building committee. Any updates, Joe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. The building committee met on May 16th. It was a very short ministerial meeting. Site enabling work is ongoing. Our groundbreaking is scheduled for June 7th, and our next meeting is scheduled for June 20th. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Personnel, anything else, Sharon, that you'd like to add?
No other updates.
Yeah. And one more time, thanks so much for doing all of that work with the evaluation. Great job. Over to policy. Amy Vessels, anything else? I know that you're still fast at work. Anything that you want to share?
Nope, just that we're going to have a lot to do at the beginning of next school year in terms of looking at these changes to these policies and going through them.
Amazing. And I am not going to forget that you told me on the side that you wouldn't mind doing policy again. God bless you. All right, let's go over to our advisory committees. Dana actually had to take off. She had some family stuff that she was managing with her little, so audit advisory will have to wait, but please know that she is working hard on that and alongside Ross to move toward a new auditor potentially and establish that timeline. So Ross, I know we were exchanging some emails at one point, so we'll just keep going with that. So over to Jackie for DOJ.
I just wanted to say, I know that we already had the brief update regarding the people who are being put forth from our community and from the current DOJ members. They've met multiple times to kind of review their existing documents in preparation for the presentation at our next meeting. And so I know that that was a lot of work and looking forward to seeing their presentation with you all on the 5th.
That's great. Thank you so much.
And I also, are we
yeah.
taking like recommendations? No, just kidding. I was gonna say, I also love being on policy with Amy.
Ah, wonderful. That's awesome. Yay. So I will keep that in mind. At the June 5th organizational meeting, we do have a survey for all of the members of the new committee to kind of assert their preferences. So that is to be decided. Let's go to our final advisory, and that is CPAC and Karen.
No report. CPAC was going to present tonight, but we got really behind. So hopefully that will be rescheduled soon so they can share what they've been working on directly with the committee.
Thanks, Karen. And I would be remiss if I let us adjourn without saying equally to you how appreciative we are of your work. And we are going to really miss you on school committee. This is your last meeting as well. And again, just thank you so much for everything that you've done and all of your expertise lending it to the committee and to the Neshoba Public Schools. So yay, Karen.
Thank you
We'll
for
miss
making my
you.
longest.
I know it's like some COVID era level meeting minutes here. So thank you everybody for hanging in there. Items for next agenda are pretty well set on the planning calendar. If there's anything you want to add, just reach out to me. And before I move to adjourn, I want to say one more time, thanks to Mike Horish and Karen Devine for all their service. Great job, guys. We'll miss you. Stay in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
So I'm going to move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Scott. And let's take a vote on that. I vote yes. Mike.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Shondor.
Yes.
Jackie.
If I say no, will they stay? I don't know. Yes.
They won't.
Yes.
Sharon.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Amy Vessels.
Yes.
And Amy Cohen.
Yes, I guess so.